This is the Investor Connect podcast program. I'm Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of this show in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, family offices, private equity, and many other investors for early stage and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Investor Connect is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors and startups for fundraising. Please consider donating $100 to the program to help others in their investor and entrepreneur journey. You can find the donate button on the investorconnect.org website. Well, hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today we're here with Carlos Gutierrez, managing partner at Simma Capital. Simma Capital invests in early and growth stage companies that are co-founded by outstanding teams, are scalable, have solid unit economics, and are connected with Colombia and the rest of Latin America. Carlos, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Hal. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you to all your listeners for your time.
Great. So tell us more about your background before investing in early stage companies.
Well, since I was young, I was an entrepreneur. I was the guy that sells pretty much everything in the school. So bubblegum, brownies, sandwich, whatever I could, I tried to sell it in the school. Then in the university, I tried with a few business. I made a distribution business. I made a bar. Of course, I broke both of those business. And then I find some like-minded people to whom I made my first investments. So I started investing in venture capital around 9 years ago. First of all, with a private group that is called Invex. That is myself and 4 other partners. And with that group, we started investing in this sector.
Great. So what excites you right now?
Well, right now, I'm very excited about fintech, edtech, and I'm a little bit excited about pet tech. I think that sector is very interesting. To go a little bit deeper in that sector, 3 out of the 5 countries that have most pets versus people in the country are in Latin America. It's Colombia, Mexico, and Brazil. So our proportion with pets is huge. So pretty much everybody here has a cat, a dog, or something like that. And I think that's a huge market that is underdeveloped right now. And I think that the market is going to move a little bit kind of like the Japanese market in the pet sense. So people is having less kids. People is caring about their pets a lot more. So they are investing a lot more in their pets. And I think that there's going to be a very big opportunity in that market. But aside from that, of course, fintech, well, there's a huge opportunity. Even now, the market is huge, but there is a lot of people still that doesn't have access to financial services here in LATAM. So let's say, for an example, in LATAM, around 81% of the economy is still moving cash. But in the States, it's 24, and in China, it's 18. So, of course, there is a huge gap there. There's a huge opportunity there. So there are a lot of things to do there. And EdTech, I just think that COVID just showed us that the traditional education works, but it's not the best that we can do. And we can help that education with some e-learning and with some hybrid models. So we can help a lot of more people to have access and to have quality education.
Great. Well, you see a lot of startups and investors in the Latin sector. What's your advice for people investing in startups? What do you tell them to do before they write that check?
Well, I think that, first of all, I think they need to think about their thesis, their investment thesis. Even if you're going to invest as an angel investor and it's only your money, I think it's important to know that you need to diversify. This is a very risky sector. So normally you need to invest in around 20 companies, at least 20 companies, to have a diversified portfolio. So if you're going to invest in 20 companies, well, you need to make 20 checks. So you need to be sure that you have the money enough to do those checks. You have to do it in some time frame. So it's not like in 10 years, more like 3 to 4 years, something like that. So it's more like a portfolio, maybe some sectors, maybe there's some diversification that comes with each person. So of course, if you're a person that works in the transportation sector, well, you have more knowledge in that sector, so probably you're going to invest more in that sector, and that's totally fine. But of course, it's good to have some diversifications and go to another sectors, maybe in some occasions to another countries. But I think that if you're going to invest in the States, well, you have a huge market, so there's no need for that. But I think the first part is definitely to see a little bit about your investment thesis, what you want to invest, and to look to your to the portfolio that you think will be the best one, so you can bring those thoughts to now and execute on them. And besides that, well, you need to, of course, look to certain characteristics like team, like network, the size of the market, the industry, and well, all of that.
Great. And then on the other side of that table, what's your advice for people running startups in the LATAM sector? What do you tell them to do before they go out to raise funding?
Well, in the LATAM sector, I would think that first of all, they need to think big. Most of our countries are small countries, and even in some cases, they can have some big industries. The reality is that probably you'll need to work in many countries at the same time to have a good market. And if you want to compete against the States, against Europe, against China, India, well, you need to have pretty much all of Latin America as your market. So, first of all, think big. Second of all, most of the investors are financial people. If not, they have financial advisors. So, I think that's a topic that most of the entrepreneurs are a little bit bad on the topic, but most of the investors are very good on the topic. So, I think there is a big gap there, and you don't want to have problems in what the other person is very good at it. So a little bit of work in your unit economics, in your financial models, in your projections, and I think that will help a lot.
Great. So let's talk about the state of investing in Latin America. How do you see the industry evolving from here?
Well, I think it's a very exciting moment right now. The industry is pretty much booming in Latin America. The VC invested in the region is breaking all records in the last 4 years in succession. And I think that in the next few years, we're going to see a lot of exits and maybe some IPOs that is not that normal for Latin America, especially in the tech ecosystem. And with those exits, I think we're going to see a lot of new angel investors, a lot of new entrepreneurs, because executives of those companies are going to go out, are going to cash out, are going to try to go to new companies, to fund new companies. And we're going to see a lot of returns to the early investors in these companies. And I think that the ecosystem is going to have a very big jump. So I think it's a great moment to be in Latin America. Our population is twice the size of America. Our PIB per capita is twice the size of India. So I think we have a good mixture in terms of sector. And yeah, I think the opportunity here is very big at the moment.
Great. So what do you think is the biggest change we'll see in, say, the next 12 to 24 months?
I think the biggest change is probably going to be liquidity. As I mentioned, I think that there are going to be some exits in the near future. I think Rappi, the Colombian unicorn that we are investors in, probably is going to make an IPO in the next 12 to 24 months. And we are seeing that also in some companies in Mexico and Brazil. And that is going to move a lot faster the ecosystem. And that's going to bring a lot of air, and it's going to bring like a sense that it can be done. Like Rappi, that is the first unicorn of Colombia. If they go to an exit, they make the IPO, it's going to be a very huge thing, because it will show everybody that there is an opportunity in this market, that you can do it, that even though if you're in Colombia, that is not that big of a market, you can create a great company, and that there is a big opportunity there. That is not only crazy risk and crazy things, that there is a real market there.
Great. Well, let's talk about your investment thesis for your fund. What exactly is it, and what is your criteria for investing?
Okay, so at Simma, that is the fund that I'm running right now, we're going to invest in 25 to 30 companies in early stage, so in seed to Series A. Normally, we invest around 100K to 150K per company. So in those rounds, we are co-investors. We are not lead investors. Normally, we're looking for companies with traction, companies that have already proved their market, that they have a product market fit, that they have a service that is fixing a real problem in the community or in the world. Um, we're looking a lot into a team. So we hope for a team of 2 or 3 people. We hope that there's a woman in the team, that they have knowledge in the sector. And if they are a serial entrepreneur, it's pretty much the best quality that we can find in the moment. We are also looking for ambitious people. And all of that, we are looking at in, in very big sectors. So even if we are agnostic, we see all the sectors and all the opportunities. We prefer the sectors that we know that there is a big opportunity because there is a big market. So we prefer fintech, SaaS, PropTech, and health.
Great. Can you talk about 1 or 2 startups you funded that fit that thesis?
Yeah, sure. One of those companies that I'm very proud of it, and I think it's going to be a huge company. I'm a little bit scared to say it, but I will bet that it will be a unicorn called Bold. It's a financial service company. It's a platform for payments for small and medium enterprises. So they start like Square started like around, I don't know, 8 to 7 years, something like that. So they are starting with the MPOS system. They also have links for payments and all of that services right now. They are going to expand to open bank accounts for these companies and to give credits to them also. This company has been in the market, I think, for only a little bit longer than a year, but they have already, well, more than 30,000 small companies already as clients. The GMB is incredible. The entrepreneurs is all that I mentioned and more. They are super analytic, great persons. Even now that they are raising a very big round and they have, well, very big investors, they listen to us. They are open-minded. So I think that Bold is going to be one of those home runs, probably.
Great. So you see a lot of startups and a lot of investors. What are the challenges you see the Latin startups face to launch their business today?
Yeah, in Latin America, and especially, there's a few problems. First of all, there's a lot of bureaucracy here, and so that can affect some markets. And also, there is a problem with legal structures. So, let's say, for example, in Colombia, it's very easy to open a company. It only takes around 3 days to open a company, and you already have the bank account and everything settled in those days. But to raise money is very difficult in Colombia. There is a lot of law for anti-laundering money. There is a lot of law for the number of associates or partners that you can have, for the number of investments that people can make in you, for the number of loans that you can have. So there is a lot of laws that are a little bit restrictive, and the legal structure in Colombia is a little bit harsh to raise money for these kind of models. So just to give you an example, I have invested in around 25 startups by now with Invex, with Simma, and some angel investors. Well, we are in Rapid, that is the unicorn of Colombia. But of those 25 investments, only one is a legal structure in Colombia. 23 are legal structures in Delaware, and 2 others are in Europe. So that shows that there is really a problem here for this kind of business, for the legal structure. That right now the solution is, well, to do it in Delaware or in other region, but it is a problem anyway for some entrepreneurs that maybe don't have access to lawyers in Delaware, or don't have good English, or don't have the money to create a company here and a company there. So it is a restriction right now.
Great. And then what are the challenges for the investor in the Latin American startup scene?
Well, right now, that I think is going to be the biggest change are the exits. There are not that many exits at the moment, but I hope and I think that that's going to change, like I mentioned, in the next 12 to 24 months. Also, our corporations here are a little bit behind the time. If you see the corporations in the States, the amount of money that they invest in R&D and in acquisition or mergers, well, is proportionally is huge compared to the money that the corporations invest in Latin America. So the big corporations here are still very slow in acquiring new technology, in maybe acquiring some of these startups that I think could make a huge change for them. And of course, a huge change again for the ecosystem. So still, I see that there is a little bit of a gap there that we hope it will close in the next few years. And I think that the other challenge probably is the network and the investors. Sadly, in Latin America, the normal investor is very conservative. So they think, well, this business is risky, it's a risky business, but they see it pretty much like a crazy thing. Let's put it in that words. So they see it like if it's a pyramid or a scam or something like that. Or so we need to teach people, we need to teach the investors that there is an opportunity here to show the market. Because at the moment, I think that more than 90% of the venture capital money that is in Colombia is from the States. And that's good for the States investors. But of course, many of the entrepreneurs that doesn't have the network with the States, well, they are in a very big disadvantage. And second of all, the investors in Colombia and Latam are losing great opportunities to invest in their own countries and in their own ecosystems.
Great. So earlier you talked about several sectors that you focus on. If you had to pick one that is the best subsector or application in the Latin American market to pursue, what would you call out?
Well, the best subsector, I will say that at the moment, pet, it really excites me a lot. I think that in the big sectors like health, edtech, and fintech, as I mentioned, there are great opportunities, but there are some subsectors that are being left behind and maybe are not that big like the other sectors, but you can grow some huge companies in there anyway. So yeah, pet definitely is one of those. And well, I think probably esports is one of those also that is going to boom in the next years. And there is pretty much anything right now in Latin America in esports.
Great. Well, in the last few minutes that we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
I just want to remind the listeners that there is really big opportunities in Latam. And right now, if you see the numbers, you can see there is a huge gap in the investment money that is being invested right now in Latam and in the quality of the companies and entrepreneurs right now. So let's say we are a small fund and we only raised 4 million in this first fund. But we are seeing the top companies in Colombia and in Latam just because there are not that many investors here. So right now, there is a huge gap that it means there is a huge opportunity for investors. I think that there's probably space for 8 to 10x the amount of money that is being invested right now in Latin America. So if you see the States market, for an example, there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of VC, a lot of angel investors. And of course, the opportunities are still huge. Nobody doubts that. But you need to compete a lot to get into those opportunities. And well, you are seeing that very famous entrepreneurs, they don't even have to do a pitch. They just raise rounds like crazy. That doesn't happen in Latin America. So there is a big chance here that if you have some connections or if you can come here and see the ecosystem or something like that, probably you will be able to invest in the top 5% of the entrepreneurs or something like that very easily. And you don't need to compete with that many investors.
Great. So how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
Well, I think that the best way is LinkedIn. You can search for my name, Carlos Felipe Gutierrez, or also you can search for my company, Simma Capital.
Great. We'll include those in the show notes. I want to thank you for joining us today and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
Thank you, Hall, and thank you to all the listeners.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Hall T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.